Hey everybody, Dr. Sean Talbot here. Hey, we're going to talk today about why your motivation is in the toilet, why your motivation is low, and it's because you're probably not producing enough dopamine. And most people understand dopamine as the neurotransmitter of motivation, but what a lot of people don't understand is that 70% of your dopamine comes from here. It comes from your second brain, not the first brain in your head. And we know that if we can increase the production of dopamine in your gut, you're gonna be more motivated. Now, it's not like you produce more dopamine in the gut and it leaks out into your bloodstream and flows up into your brain and leaks into your brain and makes you more motivated. It doesn't work that way. We know that producing more dopamine in your gut, that dopamine stays in your gut, but it signals more dopamine production in your brain. And some of that signal goes through something called the vagus nerve, a nerve that has a hardwired connection from your gut to your brain and to a lot of other organs that we talk about. Some of the signals will go through your immune system, which can talk to your second brain and talk to your first brain directly. Some of those signals go through these other signaling molecules called cytokines. So, increasing dopamine production, the 70% of dopamine here will definitely make you more motivated. So it's a variety of these different neurotransmitters that sort of play this game of dominoes, biochemical dominoes that help us be more motivated. But once you do that, once you get more dopamine signaling, you're more motivated, you have more drive, you have more get up and go, you have more energy, but a kind of energy that is a very sort of actionable energy. And if you're disrupted at the level of your microbiome, you're just going to feel kind of blah. You're going to feel kind of tired. You're going to feel like you're running in mud. You're not going to be motivated to get up and be creative and be active and make a meaningful impact in the world. You're just going to feel kind of blah all the time. So where dopamine comes from is one of the ways that we can increase our production of dopamine is to eat more protein foods. It's one of the reasons that when people have a diet that is very heavy in carbohydrates and processed foods, they feel less motivated because they're getting a lot of carbs, a lot of calories, but they're not getting the protein that is the source of the amino acid tyrosine that is the precursor for our bodies to make dopamine. So when so many people out there are eating these highly processed foods, standard American diets that just aren't rich in tyrosine, they don't have the building block to make the dopamine. So that's the first part. You want to make sure that you're getting a lot of protein-rich foods. It doesn't mean you need to go on the carnivore diet or anything silly like that. You just need to, make sure you're getting some eggs and some fish and some chicken and even soy if you're sort of on the vegan side. I have a lot of dairy in my diet. I have a lot of nuts and seeds and things like that that are not meat sources of protein. So there's all kinds of places you can get enough protein. You can do protein shakes if you need to, sort of sneak things in like that. I do a protein shake almost every day as a way to, make sure I'm getting good high quality protein. So that's one thing. You need to make sure that you have the building block for dopamine, and that's tyrosine you're going to find in any of those protein containing foods. The other thing, and people forget about this, is that because 70% of that dopamine comes from your gut, you want to make sure that you're feeding the bacteria in your gut, your microbiome, and what they want to see is fiber. That's what they thrive on. That's their main source of fiber. And so increasing the fiber intake in your diet by getting, I recommend that people do the 30 plant challenge all the time where you're getting 30 different plant foods, vegetables, fruits, spices, seeds, nuts that are all sources of different kinds of fibers, oligosaccharides and prebiotic fibers that feed the bacteria in your gut. So if you're nourishing them, they can do their job better. And one of their very important jobs is producing neurotransmitters and signaling with the immune system and signaling those cytokines that I talked about a minute ago and making sure you have good gut integrity so the signals pass between the two brains in a very efficient manner. So any fruits and vegetables are going to be really good for this. That's why I recommend that 30 plant challenge. But one of the best ways to do it is to give foods to each of your three brains. So you know about the brain in your head. Now you know about the brain in your gut, your second brain. There's a brain in your heart also, what we call the third brain. And I actually break down three foods, my three favorite foods. One food for the head brain, one food for the gut brain, one food for the heart brain. And you can check that out right here. If you go to this video, video, you'll get the three brains foods that are probably already in your kitchen. And if they're not, they ought to be in your kitchen, because it's a very simple way for you to eat this for your head brain, this for your gut brain, this for your heart brain, and really synchronize that entire system so that dopamine signal of motivation is going through your entire body. So what I want you to understand is that dopamine is one of these things that we need, but we can modulate it using diet. We can modulate it using these very specific nutrients that are, like I said, are in everybody's kitchen. So make sure that they're in yours. Okay. I'll see you next time.